full reaction, immediate reaction. Yes, you can see it is still daytime over in the UK. Immediate reaction to the Skip Schumaker presser. Tons of insight and information. We're going to dig into all of that on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins podcast and I am your host, Peter Pratt. Yes, I am based in the UK and the Twitter handle, if you want to follow me there, it's at Miami Marlins _UK. Don't forget the underscore. If you are listening to the pod, hello. Remind us to hit subscribe. Why not? It's available free and everywhere. If you are listening and you don't know about it, there is a YouTube channel. If you like YouTube, if that is your vibe, hit me up there too. For those watching on YouTube already, hello, greetings. You will see it's daylight here in the UK. Recording at the very early time for me at 10 to 4 p.m. So the sun is still out. Birds are tweeting. And speaking of tweeting, there is a lot of tweeting going on right now after the Skip Schumaker presser. And there is tons to get into. Looking forward to diving into that. I knew there'd be plenty of sound bites from it. So we're going to kind of dig into all of that. My overall reaction, just personality-wise, hearing Skip talk, communicate, he just seems very open character, very clearly a big family guy, clearly a man of faith as well. He was looking for signs. Should I take this job? Should I not? I'm looking for a sign anywhere. Can anyone give me a sign about yes or no? But he seemed calm. He seemed relaxed. He seemed open and spoke really well. Really enjoyed what I heard in general. Really did. There's a couple of key themes that I pulled out of this as well that I think are really interesting. Just going back to Donnie last year, some of maybe the challenges that were seen and maybe how Skip will go about things. First of all, let's remember, Donnie said it's time for a new voice. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Donnie had a great 7 years with the Marlins. It's time. And the first interview, it's, again, going back to this hire again, sorry. It was heavily weighted towards the interview process. The Marlins reached out. They got an interview going. I believe it was in San Diego. And a three-hour first interview. And pretty much it sounds like after the first 5-10 minutes, they pretty much had Kim only sold. Pretty much, it sounds like. And there were some key elements in there. Firstly, the thing that we shouldn't disregard is the fact that he's talking about winning. What does winning look like? What does a winning culture look like? He's been around some big clubs that have been winning for a long time. He knows what winning looks like and feels like and should feel like. That then goes a layer deeper in terms of the culture. And that's what Skip's focused in on. He plenty of time. Got to be honest, at times it felt like we were reading a business degree book at times, but that's fine. Skip talking about culture, 3 main themes: communication, accountability, preparation. Those combined plus execution. Can you execute? Are you prepared? Can you communicate so you know what's expected of you? And is there accountability? Sounds like a recipe for success to me. Resetting the culture is interesting. The other part as well that did trickle out of this, I think it was a season ticket holder that asked this question. So I like the fact that the Marlins invited some of their season ticket holders into the introductory session. Someone asked him directly. It was a question that I had and asked on Twitter, and no one answered me directly, is whether Skip speaks Spanish directly. He did say that he did 3 years in high school, I think, and then it tailed away. So it was one of his big regrets is that he now doesn't speak the language fluently, but doesn't feel that will hold him back. And members of his staff will be comfortable with the language, let's say. Likely, it will be their first language. And that's important, clearly. And I think that from Skip's perspective, it's creating the culture where everyone knows what's expected of them and they can execute on that. And the overarching theme seemingly is, what does a winning culture look like? He's been with both the Cardinals and Padres in coaching roles recently, the major league level, been around some successful clubs there, knows what it looks and feels like. We go back to last year, the culture, it seems there was a problem. Going back to that whole players meeting thing, it's annoying in some ways to have to keep revisiting those themes, those topics. But the way it was portrayed by Donnie in the media was that things were broken and fractured with the clubhouse. So it is a good time for a reset. What else Skip called out was he's looking forward to not facing Sandy Alcantara every day, every fifth day, let's say. Looking forward to being on the other side of that one. So clearly, just thinking about why would Skip Schumaker want to take on this job? I mean, listen, the Marlins need to do a sales job on him too. There's other vacancies out there, clearly. He was looking for a sign. Should I take this role? I'm a West Coast guy. Do I want to uproot and go all the way across, literally across the country, over to Miami? I'm looking for that. But in terms of the sales collateral that Kim can layer on, you start with Sandy Alcantara, clearly. You then layer into that Jazz Chisholm Jr., then you start to layer in some other pitchers, Mel Stoudemire, and all of a sudden you've got the recipe for some potential success, let's say. But clearly that would be part of the sales package, and clearly Skip is looking forward to working with Sandy Alcantara on a more regular basis. So it's funny, like the culture thing I think is really critical. He needs to get the right staff, and it feels to me like he's comfortable in being able to delegate. Also, he's been around a first-time manager last year that was a success. He's also been around more veteran managers and seen and learned from them. So he can blend things together. He can blend it together nicely, take bits of different experiences, create his own way around that. Take the goods and layer into it what you can do and your beliefs. And I think what the undercurrent of Skip Schumaker to me is, when I sit back, like I said, right at the top of the show, seems open, man of faith, a family guy, nice guy. But a couple of times he mentioned in there the accountability piece and the fact that he'd seen managers, coaches, I don't think he mentioned players, but managers and coaches get walked all over by the players. He said, that's not happening. I can see and I can sense it with Skip. There is a steely undercurrent there. When required, I think he can lay down the smack. I absolutely can. I can see him dropping a big elbow from the top rope if required. Like, there's a degree of just discipline. Let's call it that. A discipline in there, an expectation. And he'll tell you about what the expectations are, and that you'll be accountable if you don't meet them. But overall, everyone should be driving towards a winning mentality, winning culture. Speaks a little bit to like how Derek Jeter spoke, to be honest with you. And Kim, actually, in terms of how she was selling the role to Skip. We're ready to win. Our window is open. From a pitcher perspective, she may be correct. But from a hitting perspective, clearly there is work to do. Let's take a brief pause, guys, and let you know about our good friends over at Simply Safe. And if you've thought about securing your home with home security, but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up right now. Locked On listeners can order the #1 rated SimpliSafe home security system for 50% off. That is 50, absolute scenes, 50% off. This is there's sirens going off in the background here and all sorts. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. Here's why I love it. Did you know that over the holidays, property crimes like burglaries and package theft spike nationally? Of course they do. That's why our friends at SimpliSafe Home Security are offering 50% off their award-winning security system so that more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. Order your SimpliSafe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind. There's tons of reasons why to like them, but in emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring against use of the Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe. to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get priority police response. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system that I and the Locked On Network would recommend. You can get 50% off any new SimpliSafe system at simplysafe.com/today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That's simplysafe.com/LockedOnMLB. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Absolutely. Okay, back to Skip and the presser. The news continues to drop. Craig Mish reporting, actually, just to kind of clear up the administrative elements of this one. Craig Mish talking about a 2-year deal with a club option of a third. I believe that's correct. So with that being said, the Marlins have made a decent commitment to Skip Schumaker. Like, it is like the question that Keith Law was asking a few days ago, was like, do the Marlins know he's going to be successful? No, they don't. No one knows. And how big of a role does the manager play? Plays a huge role. I think this is where we get into of like, what is the value? That's the question. What's the value of a big league manager right now? Is it picking lineups? Is it bullpens? Is it all of this stuff? The key element for the manager is to make sure that the clubhouse culture is on the money. It is. Make sure that that culture breeds success and players can perform at their best. Adversely, if you get it the other way around, where you have challenges that impacts players' performance, it's only going to lead to more L's. So that is the thing for Skip. Can he get it right? Can he get everyone moving in the same direction? Can you find a way to unlock the talent, offensive talent that's there? It is there. Took a step back last year. And also, can they identify the right pieces to add to that? That's not really his domain. He'll have a say, I'm sure, but that's for Kim and her staff to really focus into in terms of identifying talent. But for Skip Schumaker, it's time. It's a great time to reset. Start to understand his players. Start to make those connections. Start to understand what makes them tick. If you do that, you can then start to understand what you're working with. From those conversations, you may find that you're not all in on a guy. And that may fade it. That may kind of bleed into stuff. You know, if you start to have a conversation with a guy and you get the sense that you are not moving in the same direction for whatever reason, then that's a good opportunity to say, listen, I don't think you're going to fit in here. We see this a lot in other sports, right? You get new management come in, new coaches. They have a philosophy, a way of playing, a way of preparing. And if you don't align to that, then they look to move you on. To me, it sounds like for Skip, culture is absolutely king. And I'm very excited to see what happens. Because, as I mentioned yesterday on Twitter, this Marlins team, as it's currently constructed, it could be, and in some ways, just by the contract situations, it's on the cusp of a rebuild or a retool or a real turnover. Because Coop, Miggy, B.A., Wendell, they're all in the final year of their deals. I probably missed someone. But there's at least those guys. The infield core is all in the final year of its deals. So, and some of them may not even make it through this year. Like Brian Anderson, for example. Do they want to pay the dough? They want to pay the $6 million for BA? We'll wait and see. But this team is on the cusp of a real big roster turnover. And I think it's a critical moment for Skip. And I think that's why I like the hire, actually. Just, it's the right time to give him an opportunity to size up what's there in the offseason and then work out, how do we add to this? How do we subtract from it? How do we start to get in his type of guys? It isn't all just about what's the production levels. Yes, it is. It's important. But at the same time, it's important to understand, are they the right type of guy and the right type of fit? And really, you got to kind of start with, how do you get the most out of Jazz Chisholm Jr.? How do you get the most out of Sandy Alcantara? How do you get the most out of Trevor Rogers? What kind of culture do these guys seek? It's, there's plenty in there, and I'm really intrigued to see the way things play out in the next few weeks for certain. like I mentioned, those three keywords: communication, accountability, preparation, plus execution. They're the ones that ring in. There was also some quotes after, because the the live feed dropped. Then they started to have some, I guess, different interviews happening in person. Craig Mish seemingly talking with Bruce Sherman, or Bruce Sherman speaking about how the fact that the organization spent over $16 million on the new facility in the DR, as we already talked about earlier, or last week. Sorry. There's other facelifts coming for some of their minor league affiliate clubs. There's also Bruce talking about the lack of activity, perhaps at the last deadline. Clearly, the Marlins didn't do too much. The quote here, and this is from Isaac Azut, that was there in person: we would have loved to have spent money to acquire more guys, but we understood that we simply weren't there. That's Bruce Sherman on last year's deadline. That's an interesting situation, and an interesting quote. But it's just that was the reality. The season was cooked. It was probably not the right time. They knew Donnie was on his way out. Like, it feels like that was the right call. No need to spend dough at that point, unless there was clearly an obvious opportunity to add someone. But really, the Marlins, it wouldn't have been the right time. And as well, with this kind of turnover of front office staff, with this turnover of management, it's time to hit the pause button. We knew where we were at. Give Skip the opportunity now. Sounds like he's whining and dining with a few of the guys, starting to get to know them. I think he said he's been out for dinner with Jazz Chisholm, which was seemingly nice. Interesting to see how Jazz performs with a new guy at the helm. That, for me, is going to be one of the interesting bits. But listen, Jazz has been out there on the media tour, and he's absolutely loving life right now. We just hope that Jazz comes back healthy and fit. The question you've got is, do they extend Jazz? Do they look to extend Jazz? That's one of the key things. And really, whatever's said and done, the ultimate question this offseason, and how this offseason will be graded, is, can they acquire some sticks? Give me the sticks. If you can acquire some sticks and pump up this offense, this Marlins team has a chance to do some damage in 2023. What happens with the core? How do you add in some sticks? How do you blend it together? Who needs to go? How are they going to construct this 40-man in the next couple of weeks? What opportunities does that create? What trades are out there? Tons of questions. However, I must say, my overall sense of things and the way the offseason has played out thus far, and we're only at the 3rd of November. This is really early doors. The Marlins have been very active, clearly, with the Don Mattingly news, the need to replace Don. They've obviously then extended Mel as well, which is great. They've obviously then opened their new Dominican Academy. Again, the Marlins, really tons of news. But when we strip it all away, no matter what culture Skip Schumaker creates, and let's assume it's going to be the one that he wants it to, the players have to perform. And they have to find a change in offense. They do. We know that. We're going to spend so much time in the next few weeks digging into that. Very intrigued to see how aggressive the Marlins are. I don't think they can be overly aggressive on the financial side. I just can't see Bruce Sherman throwing tons of dough at this one. It's all going to be about the trades. Can they execute on those trades to give the offense the boost it needs? There's going to be more fallout. I've hit record almost immediately as soon as the live stream ended. And so there'll be more fallout. I've seen there's interviews happening. There's stuff appearing on Twitter with interviews with Kim Ang, I think, with other interviews happening with Skip Schumaker. So there's going to be tons more sound bites. But in summary, for me, Skip has laid out the plan. He's really focusing on the culture. The culture isn't about having stuff stuck up on the wall. He did call it out to say the culture is, you ask the players and they'll tell you what the culture is. It isn't about the sound bites. For him, though, it's all about those three elements: the communication, the accountability, the execution of it as well, clearly. And really, I can see and sense there's an undercurrent of discipline and expectation from him. He doesn't speak Spanish, but there will be some Latin managers around that will help to relay the message in the native tongue, let's say, for those guys that need it. But overall, I don't think you can't help but be impressed thus far with what you're hearing. Clearly for him, it's about winning. He's been around winning teams. He knows what a winning culture, clubhouse looks like. He knows what the expectations are and should be. And I think let's start there. I think he's got the blueprint. Can he apply it to this Marlins roster? And who can he add to this Marlins roster to further enhance that blueprint? With that being said, it's Locked On Marlins in the books for Thursday, the 3rd of November. Thanks for joining me again and making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's Friday tomorrow, and I'll be back again, of course, on Friday with the final episode of the week. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you again tomorrow.